Hey there, my name is Alex, I am the Silver Mont, and this video is about Black Desert Online. An online, surprisingly, game with action and crafting elements. Disclaimer time, this is a sponsored video. They came to me and said, hey, we'll pay you to talk about our game because we think it's so awesome that you and your viewers will love to check it out. And I said, you're right, it's like the Dark Souls of online games, so I'll talk about it. I actually didn't say that, it has nothing to do with Dark Souls. In truth, two of my friends have been big into Black Desert Online over the past few years, and we share similar tastes in games, and it looked like something I'd like to share with you guys. If you want to check out the game, there's a link in the video description that'll take you to the game's website. Incidentally, if you check out the game via that link, you can try it yourself for free. There's a 7-day trial. And let's talk about that, shall we, to kick things off. Trials, monetization, the business model of Black Desert Online. Simply put, it's a buy once online game. That is to say, you buy the game, then all future updates are free. There's no subscription. So of course the best way to go about it would be to get the free trial, see if you like it, and then maybe drop the money on that initial purchase. And these sorts of models are nice, as it means you can take a break now and then and come back, and you don't need to worry about resubscribing or anything like that. There's also a real money shop in-game, where you can buy things from game boosters to cosmetics. For the most part, it looks like nothing here is required, but it's there to make your time smoother and more efficient. A cursory search on the internet found a good spreadsheet guide for the cash shop, suggesting which items are important or worth grabbing and their historic prices. So there's plenty of tools in the community like that, which, you always want that. You always want a lot of community resources in a game with this much content. During my time with the game, I found everything was going smoothly enough at the start. I wasn't, going, oh, I need to pay more money to keep playing the game or anything weird like that. So I'm under the impression these items are there to save time at later levels. Cash shop and business model out of the way, what are the main selling points for Black Desert Online? Well, I expect you might be able to guess just from this 2 minutes or so of footage you've been watching, but the developers claim to have the best combat system of any MMO, with skill-based action combat. Not only that, but also the best character creation in the business, along with a large, loading-free open world. Lofty claims, but are they accurate? Well, as for the loading-free open world, yeah, you load into the game and that's the only load screen you have. But how about the combat? Is this the best combat system of any MMO? Well, I haven't played every MMO there is, but I wouldn't begrudge them that claim. Black Desert's combat is extremely flashy and has a nice sense of impact to it. It feels more like playing a console action game at times than playing, an online RPG. Instead of pressing hotbar abilities, you're encouraged to use directional inputs, such as forward and F, or back and right click, right? So you can chain combos together in a very satisfying and, well, cool way. It's worth pointing out you can also assign these abilities to quick slots, which effectively work like hotbars, but I don't think they're as effective if you pull them off that way. It definitely feels like less of an RPG and more of an action game, which I like. Other MMOs might have very flashy attacks, but they're still very hotbar based, and the movement will feel very awkward and stiff as your characters will sort of glide about and stuff, whereas you have others which feel more action oriented, but then maybe they lack a real sense of impact or weight because of how latency works, or just how the damage is displayed or reacted to by the enemies. When you do this giant flying mega axe slam that shoots out meteors and the enemy doesn't even flinch, yeah, that's not fun in MMOs. In Black Desert you can trip up enemies, you can send them flying into the air. It feels like your attacks matter. And that is very important when you're making a game so reliant on feedback, so it's good that they got that nailed. They also claim to have the best character creation of any MMO available at the moment. That's the point I would agree on, with a few caveats, which I'll admit they're very specific to me, but anyway. The character creation is incredibly in-depth and allows you to fine-tune every little aspect of your character. You can change all the usual things, hairstyle, skin, eye colour, face type and whatnot, but there's also a height slider, which is not as common, but it's very welcome. there's muscle sliders, and something that I don't think anything else has it that I can think of off the top of my head, the way to adjust individual parts of the body, such as the abdomen, the forearm, the bicep, the shin, the thigh. You know, you get the idea. You can change them, you can make them longer, thinner, fatter. In general, you're allowed to fine-tune each little part of the body. Even strands of the hair, you can make them curve in, curve out, go point up, point down. It's very easy to use, and it allows a lot of customization. But, and here's the caveat I mentioned earlier, the game does use a character class system where it's more like you select a character rather than making a character and choosing their class. For example, you don't say, I want to make a human female wizard. You don't make a human female and then choose to be a wizard. It is, you are going to be a wizard that is a set character which you then change. This isn't a huge problem, but the reason I don't personally like it is because it means some classes don't have gender options. For example, the Guardian and the Valkyrie, they're female only. Though I do have to point out that these days, they've got a lot better with it. For example, we have the Wizard and the Witch, who are effectively like a male and female version of the same thing. But at time of writing, the class I focused on in this video, during my time playing, the Guardian is female only. Maybe in the future they'll add a male version of the Guardian. I'd like that because, you know, I like the choice. I don't like classes or characters being gender locked. It's not something I personally really like, because, you know, sometimes I don't want to play a female, maybe sometimes I don't want to play a male. I like having the option. But at time of writing, there are 18 classes covering just about everything. Although if I could choose an upcoming class, I think we need some sort of, I don't know, light armored spearman. I like spears, alright? Now, these classes can also be awakened at like level 56 or something, which gives them another weapon. So in that sense, yes, there is a polearm class. Not a spear, but it's close. The Musa gets a glaive polearm style weapon. The warrior gets a greatsword. The sorceress gets a scythe, and so on and so forth. I would like to see a dedicated spear class who starts off the game using a spear though. As for the Guardian, she uses an axe and a shield and has a nice set of abilities. In general, I was pretty fond of the style and aesthetic of the class, which has a sort of, you know, Norse Viking kind of vibe. Lots of brutal axe attacks, frost-imbued strikes, and powerful shield slams. I don't know what it is about attacking with shields, but I find it very fun. Not enough games treat shields as weapons, as if something used for blocking can't also be used to bludgeon. So the classes, they cover a lot of nice aspects, and they always seem to be adding more, and the character creation is great, and the game has a large world that doesn't need any loading, beyond the initial load once you boot up the game, of course. But what about other aspects? Social, crafting, economy, and all that? Well, it's not something I delved into, because I like bashing monsters a lot more than I enjoy crafting things too. So I mostly was going through like the story stuff, which, yes, there is like a story thing. You can, you know, follow a chain of quests, which will send you here and there throughout the world, gradually introducing you to aspects of the game, and revealing more about the world, your character, the general sort of thing you would expect. But there is a pretty robust looking, player-driven economy in Black Desert Online. I saw players going past with wagons full of things. I saw players kind of hunched over with a giant backpack, I assume, of materials or produce to sell. The guild and PvP situation is interesting too. You could say that the world in Black Desert is split up into nodes, and guilds can fight each other for ownership of these nodes. The guild that claims the node gets a bunch of benefits for the duration of their ownership from that area, such as obtaining part of the tax from that area, right into their guild bank. There's also a similar contest, but for entire territories, massive chunks of the game world. Guilds can build forts to this effect, and I quite like the idea of them battling each other to claim these areas. There's also player housing, in the sense that you can buy buildings, use them to live in, or to store items that you have, or a place for workers to work or live. It's an interesting premise, but again one that I wouldn't find too engaging myself, as I'll be honest, 90% of the time when I'm playing video games, I just want to smack things with an axe or prod them with a spear. But these options are good to have, and they help with an in-game economy, one that's driven by the players, which seems to be a bit of a level above in BDO, compared to other MMOs I've played that have very simple economies. Black Desert Online has a huge amount of content, and more importantly perhaps, I've kept a light tab on the game over its lifespan. I've not really played it before, but I've checked it out and I've looked at what's been going on there, and my friends have been talking about it. And like one of my friends is like the #1 fisher in BDO because he is the grand fisher. But anyway, I've seen how Black Desert has been consistently updated, which is one of the most important things for an online game. You don't want to play it, then have the devs drop support after a few months. Black Desert still going strong, lots of people playing, new content being added, improvements being made. This is all a good sign. You want an online game to have healthy support from the developers. Considering the pretty low price of the game, you could dump an insane amount of hours into it. If you like time sink games that absorb your life, this could be it. Or if you want some more casual bashing of things with fancy special attacks after work, you can get that in too. What would I personally like to see? Well, a better localization wouldn't hurt. Some of the dialogue is stiff and definitely feels translated not very well at that. That might be something, again, more subjective to me because I tend to notice that a lot, whereas other people, they don't notice it at all. The game's user interface can be a little much to take in at the start for someone who's never played an MMO before, I think. And even someone like me who's played lots of MMOs, I found the UI a little bit, I had to wrap my head around it a bit. So I think the UI could definitely be streamlined into a more basic sense when starting out. The graphics themselves, in terms of performance, seem to be very scalable. They give you lower options for weaker machines up to Ultra, and then beyond Ultra to a setting that is basically just for taking screenshots because you would need an absolute monster of a PC. I mean, I don't know if there would even be a PC that could run at those settings at 60 FPS or whatever. The graphics, incidentally, received a remastered update too, fairly recently, so it's nice to see the developers are keeping the visuals up to date, not just the gameplay. Overall, it seems like a pretty solid MMO. I'll play it some more once we get that Spearman class and I can go ballistic, stabbing imps 20,000 times. Once again, if you're interested in checking out Black Desert Online, there is a link down below in the description, which will take you to a free trial of the game. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.